All right, what is up, guys, and welcome to our very first episode. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and say this wound up being an edited episode, and it didn't exactly go as planned. We're supposed to go live at about 8 o'clock tonight, and it's currently after 9. And first of all, I had everything set up and ready to go live. My camera, my really expensive camera, my favorite camera, completely just died. It does not work anymore. So I pulled the other 5 cameras I have, and we just don't have an audio cable or anything else to make it work. So we're going to record this one. I already ordered some necessary cabling to make this work for next week. So I do apologize, but the show must go on. We decided we're just going to record an edited episode. And with this being our first, I guess, true episode.
Yeah.
Like we kind of had a little pilot, little teaser where we chit-chatted. I figured we would talk about, that moment when we become fans of our favorite team. Of course, I'm a Kentucky fan. Zach is a Tennessee fan. And just kind of talk about that moment when it set in that this is my team. And I know Zach has a good one, as do I. And I'll just go ahead and start off and tell my side of it, my story. You got to go back, to the early 90s. And honestly, I think I became an NFL fan before I became a college fan. And what you got to understand is, at a very young age, I moved from Kentucky. My parents moved us from Kentucky to Tennessee. And in Tennessee, in those days, you didn't get to see Kentucky games. They were on the local Kentucky channel. So Kentucky wasn't a primetime team back in those days like Tennessee was. Tennessee was all over CBS and the major sports channels, but Kentucky, not so much. So it was very rare that you got to see a Kentucky game. And that changed in about 1997. And that's when a man by the name of Tim Couch and a coach by the name of Hal Mummy was at Kentucky. And that was the years I remember the hype and the buzz because, Tim Couch was from an area close to where I was from. So people in my family knew him. People I knew him personally. So to have someone to come from the mountains of eastern Kentucky to be the starting quarterback at UK was a big deal. So you started seeing Kentucky play on CBS, and the first game I ever saw was Kentucky versus Alabama, and is 97-98 in that season. And Kentucky ended a big streak against Alabama and defeated Alabama, and it was a huge deal. And I just remember how loud you could hear the crowd through the TV, and just thinking, man, I wish I could just be there in that moment. And that's when it set in. That's when I was like, I'm a Kentucky fan. I bleed blue. And ever since then, and trust me, if you follow Kentucky football, it's not been the best of times. Now, lately it's been great, of course, being a Kentucky fan, but going through the 90s, the early 2000s, you had the Tim Couch era where, we went to a few bowl games there, but, never really favored. 7-5, I think, was our best season. But yeah, it was that Alabama game when we finally ended that streak that made me a fan and made me just, and then watching Jared Lorenzen come in and be the Pillsbury throw boy. And just there's all those memories. It's not always been, 10-win seasons like it is now, but there's been really memorable moments. And I guess those small moments as a Kentucky fan meant a lot more. Like when you upset somebody like an LSU or an Alabama, 2007 is a big one. That was one of my favorite teams ever, beating number 1 LSU and stuff like that. So, but that's kind of where it started for me. Now, Zach, tell us about your UT experience and what made you a diehard.
So I was born in 1993. So for the most part, I was kind of too young to really live and remember the glory days. So now when I hear like older people, people just older than me, like any older than me, talk about the way Tennessee football used to be and the way nobody wanted to play. I don't know what that feels like. I have no idea what that's like. I don't know what it's like to walk on the field and know you're going to win. I don't know what it's like to turn on the TV and know you're going to win. I have done a lot of my growing up and watching in the past 10 to 15 years that it's been an absolute crapshoot. But I do remember the very first game I went to. I couldn't tell you what year it was. I remember I was in middle school, and my dad took me. It was just me and him. And that was already special to me because I've got 2 brothers and a sister. So anytime it's just me and Dad, that's something that I'll remember. And we were playing Ole Miss, and our seats were right behind the field goal post that Ole Miss was kicking through. And I did manage to get a practice field goal.
Oh, that's cool.
I thought it was like a baseball game. I thought I would get to keep that. But they were very quickly down there on the field wanting
give
it back.
back.
I was showing John the shoes that I was wearing. I remember distinctly they were white Reeboks with chrome and orange chrome lining around the bottom. I had a Jamal Lewis jersey. It was just like a starter or something. Didn't even have his name or anything on it. It was way too big for me. But that was kind of the moment that I knew it would be a big part of my life. Now, did I pay a lot of attention? No. And Philip Fulmer came to like my 3rd grade class and autographed posters. I didn't really know or care who he was. It wasn't until Lane Kiffin left that I really was upset enough about it to pay attention to what was going on. I remember where I was when they hired Butch Jones. You and I were working together. Yeah. I was in a customer's house. I was putting a keypad in somebody's bedroom, and they came across the news about Butch Jones and being hired. And the people there were much older than I was. I was 18 or 19 at the time, and they were going on and on and on about the glory days. And I was still, I don't know what that's like. I still couldn't tell you what that's like. I can go back and I can watch old games and it just doesn't click. So I'm very much raised on the disaster that Tennessee football has been since the last couple of Philip Fulmer years and then everything we've seen since.
Yeah, it's definitely been a dumpster fire. And what's crazy is when Butch Jones was hired, that's when Kentucky hired Mark Stoops the same year. And you can see what patience, and this is not trash talk right here. This is like serious. Like you see, people can take a page out of Kentucky's book where they, it was 2-10. It was 4 years before we got to a bowl game. Yeah. But they stuck with the process. Nowadays, it's a little different because you got the transfer portal.
It should be easier.
NILs. Y'all got your $8 million quarterback. Yeah. Talk about the pressure.
Yeah, it'll have to balance itself out.
It's going to have to
because it's like that.
It can't. It's too volatile right now. And there's, that kid, you're going to give him $8 million, but you pay him that $8 million, he goes out and blows his knee out week 1. Yeah. And his career's over. And what is those boosters who are giving that money going to feel? There's got to be a regulation somewhere with that.
It's got to balance out.
But yeah, it's I understand, and I think that's why we kind of understand each other as far as fans goes, because most of the people I grew up in those glory years, and trust me, as a Kentucky fan growing up in East Tennessee, it was a rough childhood as far as that goes. I think it correlated to me really getting into it is when I started playing football. Yeah. That was when that 6th grade middle school year, and that's the first time I put helmets in shoulder pads and a helmet on. And I think that just kind of went it kind of coexisted there because basketball was probably my first love. Yeah. Obviously, it's Kentucky. Yeah. You're fed basketball from the day you're born when you're born in Kentucky. So I played basketball earlier than football, and I think, that 96 national championship teams when I fell in love with that. But I remember how good Tennessee was in the 90s, though. And it's kind of crazy seeing the state of the program now. And back then when you watched them, they were, as Tennessee and Florida is like Alabama and Georgia now. You know what I mean? That was the team. They were the 2 of the best teams in the country. Every year competing for a national title. And I think it's going to get back. I think Tennessee's going to be competitive soon, unfortunately. But I'm excited for this year. I'm excited. I think we should go to some games.
Yeah.
And I have an idea, too, for the show. I think we should go to not the Kentucky versus Tennessee, but I think we should go to Knoxville together and experience the whole process. Go tailgating, all the whole 9 yards, and then go to Lexington and do the same thing.
Okay.
And kind of just get a feel for it and see, kind of compare apples to apples. What the game day experience is like in Knoxville, what it's like in Lexington. Because I can tell you 10 years ago in Lexington, it's a whole different ballgame than it is now.
I've never traveled anywhere to do any of that. Knoxville's all I've ever been.
And I haven't been to a Kentucky home game since 2013. So it's a little bit different now.
Yeah.
And that was Louisville. They played Louisville, and that was when Louisville was ranked in the top 10.
Lamar Jackson.
It was just – it wasn't good. But that's, I think that's cool. Everybody has their own experience. And please, if you're a Tennessee or Kentucky fan, share that moment below in the comments and let us know when that moment happened for you, when you become a fan for life. Okay, I'll trim this part out. I felt like it flowed okay.
Yeah.
Let's see when we're live. It's going to be a lot more chill when it's live. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to go through the schedule and kind of do our little prediction. What do we think? Like, I'm going to say what I think Kentucky's record is going to be. I mean, you kind of throw your prediction with them too.
Something tells me they won't be the same.
No, I don't think they're going to be the same. I am going to be a little biased because I'm very optimistic about this season. I won't say why. I know, we lost Wan'Dale Robinson. You can't replace somebody like that, but you do it by committee. And the best recruiting we've done over the last couple of years is in the wide receiver room. So you look at the recruits we brought in, and I'm going to tell you, from what I'm hearing, Dane Key, true freshman, might be in the number one spot. Now that can't, that could go either way. That could be problem, or that could be he's just doing that good. And from what I'm hearing, is he's doing that good because we got Tavion Robinson for Virginia Tech, a proven D1 receiver, played elite levels, played against Clemson and teams like that.
Yeah.
So he's proven experience, and he's really good. And you got Ray Lewis's son, who is also a receiver, who's showing a lot of good signs. And, of course, the one you like to call reckless, Will Levis at quarterback, who I think is going to be a Heisman Trophy finalist at the end of the year. Now, what your point is reckless. Yeah, he would like to hurdle people, dive to the end zone and get spun in the air, that kind of thing. They talked a lot about SEC Media Days, especially Coach Stoops, like, hey, we're telling them to kind of tone that back a little bit. We need you healthy the whole year. Yeah. We need that cannon of an arm. To get those passes. But he is a dual threat. And I'm not comparing him to Tim Tebow because Tim Tebow is one of the greatest college players ever.
I say go ahead and do it.
But I think he is very much like Tim Tebow. And in a way of, he's like a tight end. He's got that build. He's big, strong, physical. But yet if he can just, get his accuracy honed in a little bit this year, because he did throw, 13 interceptions. Mm-hmm. But he was just like 100 or so yards behind Hendon Hooker. Yeah. And their numbers, if you take the interceptions away, are very comparable.
Yeah, but those interceptions, that's a big
deal.
Gap.
And that's a huge gap, and that's what separates. And, I don't know if it's a system thing. I think it's a lot to Levis being his first year starting. Like, that's his first year actually starting Division I. So you got to take into account that's the first time he's seen that kind of speed. And he comes – no offense to you Big Ten people, but he comes from the Big Ten. Not the same kind of defense you see in the SEC.
No.
Okay? It's just not. So that's why we kick every Big Ten team's ass when we play them in the Citrus Bowl. So it's just the way it is.
To me, and of course this is me outside looking in, Will Levis does not look to me to be as big as Tim Tebow. I see what you're saying.
No, he's not as big as Tim.
If he's on the field, there's a very real chance he's doing something. But the problem is, and Tennessee dealt with this a couple of years ago, you either get a Tim Tebow, like or you get what we had in Brian Maurer, where he's so reckless, always trying to make a play, which is great. You want that sort of drive and motor on a player, but he ends up, Brian Maurer got 2 concussions that season trying to do things, and we appreciate that, of course.
Yeah, there's
but
a
that
lot of
doesn't
heart.
win you games if you're sitting on the sidelines with a concussion for weeks and weeks in the year.
Yeah.
And I think I like Will Levis. I think he's a good quarterback, and I've not heard anybody say anything bad about him. I wouldn't say anything bad about him. When we were playing that game, you and I were texting back and forth, and I was like, God, I wish he did not play for this. This would be much easier to stomach because he did so much. Every third down, he was leaping over people. He's a good...
he's a great athlete.
He's a great athlete. He's a good quarterback. He needs to be careful to avoid getting hurt because it only goes one direction or the other. You either go up or you go straight down.
And I think there has to be a balance. Like, there's that time when, come on. If it's fourth quarter, a minute left, and you got to beat Tennessee, you know what? Okay, go for it.
You wouldn't dare tell him to play scared.
No.
You wouldn't dare.
No. But, you're beating Louisville 45-0. I don't think you need to be hurdling defenders.
No.
Even though it's such a great highlight.
Well, yeah.
Oh, my God, it's so
Louisville
nice.
may be a bad example because you
it's
get up for that
L's
game.
down.
You get up for that game.
But we beat them like 50-something-0 every year, and then for some reason Vegas says they're going to beat Kentucky every year. I don't get that. That's just... Anyways, to the schedule. So, first of all, Miami of Ohio. Now, here's one thing. So, we play Miami of Ohio, and then a few weeks later we play Northern Illinois. That's the 2 best teams in that conference.
Yeah.
That is the conference's 2 best teams, and they're favored to win like 10 games each this year.
Are you worried about either one of those?
I'm worried about Kentucky sleeping on them because you go back last year, Kentucky played Chattanooga. I don't know if you saw that game. They had to score in the fourth quarter to beat Chattanooga.
I kind of see the good thing about the kind of Tennessee fan I am. I can forget week by week.
Yeah,
I
can
to
too.
be able to forget.
There's 2 games in a year that I can't let go of.
Yeah.
It leaves a bad taste in my mouth, and that's Tennessee and Louisville. And for some reason. And, you can argue all you want, but the facts are facts. Kentucky's been the better program for the last half decade. For the last 5 years, Kentucky's had a better program. They've won probably more games, I'd say.
Oh, yeah.
And they've been to bigger bowls. They've had bigger wins. They've beaten Florida twice.
Ranked
but
more
for
often.
some reason, we can't beat Tennessee except for that one year we beat the hell out of y'all in Knoxville, which I loved. But it's like the Auburn effect. Every once in a while Auburn just, beats Alabama.
I know how you feel.
Even when they suck.
The past several years, with the exception of a few, I felt like Tennessee at times has been better than Florida. But for some reason, we go down there, we make a backup QB look like a Heisman candidate. And then the next week, he can't throw 5 yards in front of his face.
You are our Florida.
Yes.
You're our Florida.
Yes.
And it's crazy. And but see, here's the thing. And I used to say this, and sometimes I have to bring myself back down to reality, is there was a time I'm just like, I wish Kentucky wouldn't get blown out by half the people they play.
Yeah.
I wish they didn't lose 50-0 to Florida, 45-0 to Tennessee. And that don't happen anymore. Nobody's blowing Kentucky out.
No.
With the exception of maybe Georgia. Because, they're Georgia. But I think they're going to be down this year.
The way Georgia plays will be a testament of how close they are to Alabama's ability to just next guy up and no drop off.
That's true.
And if they're not there yet, I don't know that I expect them to be there yet, but I think that they should be close.
They should be close because their recruiting's like insane.
Well, yeah, he's doing a good job. Kirby Smart's a great coach.
He is.
I don't know what to expect.
You can't say nothing negative. Like, look what he's done. Like, he did what was their previous coach?
Mark Richt.
He couldn't do.
Yeah.
Just get over that hump.
Isn't it a crazy day in college football, though? Like, you and I would agree to this. There are some people who will watch this that disagree, but there was a time we were begging for 9-win seasons, and they fired Mark Richt after 9-3, and I was like, you all are stupid. It's worked out. And I wonder sometimes because sometimes when I'm ready for football season and it's not quite here yet, I like to go back and watch some of my favorite memorable games. So like the Hail Mary against Georgia, I watched it the other day.
That's a good one. I'm not a Tennessee fan at all, but when you see something like that, it just makes hairs stand up.
I wonder what those Georgia fans were thinking those first couple of seasons when he was losing to Butch Jones like he was. Like, what were they? Oh my God, we traded 9-3 win seasons
to lose to Tennessee.
Yeah, to lose to Tennessee in this fashion when they, we were good a couple of seasons under Butch.
You were, and that's what I don't know what happened with Butch Jones.
I hear all kinds of stuff. I mean, the news here, that's all we focus on. But there was one point where there was news coming out that Butch Jones was telling his players to decide when they needed to take rest days, which I think it's fine. Like if you and I sign up for a workout program and your coach says, hey, look, listen to your body. You're too sore to work out today and it may get you hurt. Take a rest day. But when you're 18, 19, 20 years old and you're part of a D1 program, you shouldn't get to make that decision. And so that was some of the stuff that's coming out. There was a lot of off-the-field stuff like Trey Smith getting into a fight on the practice field and Butch Jones coming out and saying, no, he didn't get into a fight. He stepped on a helmet and hurt himself. But then it came out later that he did.
Yeah, and it sounds just like, I don't want to say nitpicky, but like, yeah, there are probably decisions that could have been made better, but like I feel like the team was headed in a good direction.
Yeah, I mean that final season was a disaster, but I don't remember how I felt at the time. I may have been ready to fire Butch myself, but it seemed like it happened very, very quickly.
Yeah, like it wasn't like it was just like one bad season and he's done.
Well, and that's all you get at Tennessee. I mean, I hate that. You and I have talked about this because Mark's just been, 10 years?
This is the 10th season.
10 years. So we've talked about that before. Like, there are times I envy you all being able to trust a process for 10 years.
It was just last year, a year before, he went above 500 wins.
Yeah, I mean...
Because it started out, and he's talked about it. When he took over, he's like, it was bad. Yeah. He's like, the talent was so bad in Kentucky. And they, him and Vince Marrow, Big Dog, which is one of my favorite coaches in the world, looked at each other and just like, we got an uphill climb. And they just committed to a process and they stuck with it. And, you went from the year before he got there, we lost 47-14 to Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
To Vanderbilt, which Vanderbilt, I mean, that they were rolling then. They had James Franklin. Yeah. And they had Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers' brother.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Jordan Rodgers was their quarterback. They had a good receiver. They had a good team.
Yeah, but James Franklin did a lot for them.
It's Vanderbilt at the same time, and like even though they were doing well, to lose that bad to Vanderbilt, I mean, it just showed 2-10. Yeah, I mean 2-10 2 years in a row. And to where it's at now, like realistically looking at this schedule, thinking there's a shot to go to Atlanta this year. I mean, it's going to be tough. It's SEC.
Yeah.
But, like, it lines up. So, like, you look, Miami of Ohio should be a win. Yeah. That should be an easy win. At Florida, that's the game that's going to – if Kentucky's going to make noise this year – like nationally and get buzz, they have to win this game.
Yeah,
it's going to be prime time. It's 7 p.m. on ESPN. Everybody's going to tune in because everybody's hearing about this quarterback at Kentucky. And this is when Will Levis's opportunity to shine nationally and make himself a Heisman Trophy contender. I think they're going to go into Florida. I think they're going to take care of business.
I think if Kentucky takes care of business against Florida, Tennessee will too.
I think so.
Florida's a huge unknown this season. I don't have any trust at all in Billy Napier. I mean, he's never even coached Power 5 before. No. But when you look at all the preseason coach rankings, they've got him listed near the top like he's done anything. But all he's ever done is at Louisiana. If I go down here and I coach middle school football and never lose a game, can I come coach at Tennessee and be number one for never losing? That's what it's like. It's ridiculous. But, they've got some weapons because it's Florida. You don't have to be a good program as Florida and recruit top talent. You just do because they
get it. You're going to get good talent there. It's what you do with it.
Yeah.
So I think with this being, I think Florida's going to have a down year. I think it's inevitable.
Yeah.
I think Kentucky takes care of business, and they're already going to be a top 25 team start the season. Youngstown State, that's Mark Stoops' alma mater. That's where he played college football at. I think that's a game they wanted to play. That's a game Stoops wanted to play. He wanted to bring them down. So you'll
probably just win that by 7 and keep from embarrassing them too bad?
Probably. It's probably going to be one of them that makes me nervous as hell.
Don't hang
I'm sitting here like,
one.
this is Youngstown State. We should be ahead by 50.
Yeah.
Northern Illinois scares me. That game scares me because they're good.
Yeah.
They're a good football team. They win 10, 11 games consistently every year. And they're one of them teams, if you don't show up to play, they're a sleeper, and they can upset somebody. But ultimately, it's in Lexington. That crowd has been crazy the last several years. I think they'll show up. That Ole Miss, man. What do you think about that one?
Ole Miss is a disaster, kind of. It's not like a bad disaster. We don't really know, but didn't they lose their offensive coordinator and their defensive coordinator? They lost Matt Corral, but they pick up Jackson Dart. They pick up Zach Evans from TCU. They've got a lot of weapons, and Lane Kiffin calls the plays. There's no questioning that. And
they're going to score points.
Yeah, they are. Is their defense going to be any better than it's been? I doubt it.
I think Kentucky wins big. I think Kentucky it goes into Ole Miss because Ole Miss is going. I don't know. It could go either way, man. It's one of them. I think Kentucky's going to win that, and I think they're going to beat South Carolina.
No, South Carolina.
I'm tired of this South Carolina hype, bro.
Dude,
I'm so freaking tired of South Carolina hype.
I'm beyond sick and tired of it.
I'm sure Shane Beamer's a fine guy.
I don't know anything about him. I don't know anything about his dad. I don't know anything. I don't even care about South Carolina. Okay, let me tell you.
Does anyone else?
They do. Let me tell you, get on the YouTube there at some point and just type in South Carolina. I watched a video, stupid me, from a South Carolina fan who called Tennessee trash. And I was like, I want to know why we're trash, because I don't get on the internet and talk all kinds of trash. I mean, you are my best friend. We hate each other's teams to an extent.
Yeah.
And I don't talk a lot of trash. Even during that game, you were pissed off about the 3rd and long that didn't go your way. And I was like, look, man, it's a tough call. Like, I'm trying to talk you off the ledge. Yeah. And then you went with me to Wild Wings and talked me off the ledge when we were losing to Purdue we did.
I felt so bad, though, for you.
That whole place was getting ready to blow up.
And I was like, I'm sitting there in a Kentucky shirt. I'm wearing a Kentucky shirt at Wild Wings when Tennessee loses to Purdue. And I don't think nobody's going to get mad because Tennessee beat Kentucky. So, I can't even trash talk.
Yeah, no.
But, I'm just the vibe in that room when that game ended. I'm just like, Zach, buddy.
It was rough.
I'm sorry.
It was rough. But, I hate Florida. I'll never like Florida. I'll always hate Florida. And the only person out of Florida I ever cared anything for is Tim Tebow. I like Tim Tebow. I like him. I think he's a stand-up guy. Same. I care about Kentucky because you're my friend, and I know if I don't keep up with Kentucky, I will very quickly get a text message when Kentucky does something. It happens this past baseball season. I got a text just very randomly that said, man, I can't believe what Kentucky baseball did to Tennessee this weekend.
Hey, they swept y'all, man. I couldn't believe it.
I don't even know what we're doing. I care about Vanderbilt because they're our in-state rival.
Mm-hmm.
I care about Georgia because that was one of the biggest, the Hail Mary game was one of the biggest moments in my Tennessee fandom history. And then I care about Alabama because it's where you want to be. I don't care about South Carolina. I don't care about Mississippi State. I don't really care about Ole Miss except that Lane Kiffin's there, and I'm tired of losing to Lane Kiffin when he doesn't really deserve to win. He's a great play caller. He's a great coach. That's fine. He has not earned a win through here yet, and I'm just tired of it. But South Carolina's never been on my map, and I think the reason that is because we don't really lose to South Carolina very often.
We don't either. We beat them 7 out of 8 years. Like, come on. But get over it, South Carolina. You suck.
But if you listen to the things that they say.
Oh, my God. It's ridiculous.
They are all over this Spencer Rattler. And that's fine. He's a talented QB. But
he got benched in Oklahoma.
He didn't just get benched, man. He got booed off the field. And that's fine. Like, you change of scenery does a lot of people good. And maybe it will him, too. But you also, South Carolina had, the worst offensive line in the SEC last year, and now you've got a kid.
Okay, hang on. Did you see when it popped up?
Just now, I think. I don't think it's been up there long. Okay. Now you've got a kid who can run, but under pressure tries to run and throw, and all of a sudden it's 4 interceptions a game.
Yeah, and the hype is unwarranted. Like, sure, South Carolina, God, maybe 6-6. Like, if they're lucky.
I looked at their schedule. It doesn't look good, but some of the toss-up games I'm biased on because of what I know from the past. Like, South Carolina doesn't beat Tennessee very often, and they didn't beat Jeremy Pruitt. No. And Jeremy Pruitt's team lost to BYU, Georgia State, Vanderbilt. I mean, Jeremy Pruitt's teams were terrible, even with all that talent, because he was a terrible coach. And South Carolina still could not beat Tennessee. So how you could expect me to believe that while Tennessee is leagues better than they have been.
Yeah.
We can agree on that. Like, we're not going to the SEC championship this year, I don't think.
Hey, dude.
I'm saying I don't think. That's very, very loosely. I don't see it happening. I would like to see number 2. It wouldn't surprise me if Kentucky ended up number 2 in the East. That wouldn't surprise me, nor would it bother me.
That's where they finished last year.
I don't see a problem with that. Kentucky's got a solid program that they've been working on for a decade.
Think about that. That's the first time in my life Kentucky's finished second in the East.
Yeah, but that gap to first is
I know.
Insurmountable.
I don't care. Like, it's this. I'm used to finishing 5th at best. Like, we finished in the top 5 in the East. But all right. So yeah, South Carolina. I don't see them being much of a threat this year. Maybe Shane Beamer's a great coach. Maybe he builds it. Unless Spencer Rattler turns into a Heisman Trophy winner and they find an offensive line somewhere, I don't see it. And then it's Mississippi State. And I'm going to say this. Screw Mike Leach, for one. Even though he come from Kentucky and he was offensive coordinator in that first memorable game. Kentucky's not going to lose to Mississippi State this year. That was one. Kentucky come off that game against Georgia. Let's see. Am I right? Was it after the Georgia game or was it after the Tennessee game? Kentucky went down there and got whipped by Mississippi State. And it was such a bad game. You can just tell, like, you've seen Tennessee do this. They go somewhere where they should just whip a team.
Yep.
And they don't show up.
Yep.
And they get beat bad, and then you're just like, what the hell?
Yep.
That's what happened with that game last year. And I can't see it. So here's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 0. Now, people call me what you want. But you can't tell me that there's not a very real chance they're 7-0. Now, there's also a real chance that they're 4-3 going into that game.
Yeah,
I don't see it, but there's a chance. If South Carolina somehow is as good as people think they are, okay? The thing is, I don't see Kentucky losing them games at home. On the road, maybe. But in Lexington, with that crowd they got now, I don't see it. Ole Miss is one of them you just don't know. It could go either way. Ole Miss, you don't know how good they're going to be. Lane Kiffin's a good coach. He's got some decent recruits going on there. And they're signing big-time recruits for later on. But, that's one of them you can go down there and easily lose that game. Florida is one of them you could easily go in a swamp. Shit goes wrong. Mm-hmm. You lose that game. So they could easily be 5-2 or 4-3, and I realize that. But if Kentucky plays the way Kentucky can, and with the depth and the team they have, there's a real good chance they're 7-0 going into Knoxville October 29th. And I'm gonna skip the Tennessee game. Well, no, I think Kentucky should beat Tennessee. But it's in Knoxville, and it's rare that Kentucky beats Tennessee in Knoxville, and that's a 50-50 game. I'm going to say Kentucky's going to win it because of my prediction I'm making this year. I say Kentucky wins that game, but it's going to be like it was last year. Whoever has the ball last is going to win the game. Well, actually, no. Kentucky had the ball last, and Tennessee found a defense somewhere. I don't know where they found it, but they found a defense for that one series, and that's But it's things like that, though, that make it special.
It's that NIL money.
It's that NIL money.
Pulled them out of the stands.
Missouri, it's at Missouri, so it might be a little bit challenging, but God, they're a dumpster fire, ain't they?
Dude, what I meant to look up what he said about Tennessee the other day. Did you get into that?
I saw something about he trash talked. It's something about Jeremy Pruitt. And
I mean, that's fine. Trash talk Jeremy Pruitt.
Yeah.
Yes, Tennessee finally got their notice of allegations on the cheating. We all knew it was coming. Nobody warranted all the Jeremy Pruitt crap. I don't know why Eli Drinkowitz feels like he's got any room to stand. I mean, sure, if Mizzou is cheating, they're doing an astronomically worse job than Tennessee with that.
Come on.
But you've got no room to be talking about anybody if you're the coach at Mizzou right now, because it was a lot better when it was the worst. You are below Vanderbilt in my book at this point. Like, teams I'm worried about, Missouri is literally the bottom, and Vanderbilt is up just above them because we're in-state rivals and they get up to play that game sometimes.
And like literally, tickets to Missouri games are like under $20 right now.
Yeah,
like, and you know Kentucky coming in is going to be a higher profile game for them, that's weird to say, but and $21 is the best your ticket prices are.
You know, I would buy tickets to that game though, like if it were here, because I would want to watch us put up 50 again.
Yeah. So 9-0 after we play Missouri, 10-0 after we play Vanderbilt. Now last year we started 6-0, then we stumbled. If we can avoid that stumble this year, you're looking at a 10-0 Kentucky team at home against a probably 10-0 Georgia team. You talk about setting up for like Royal Rumble. I think Kentucky loses that game though.
Yeah,
it's Georgia versus Louisville. Kentucky's going to win 50-0 again. Here's my prediction: Kentucky doesn't go to Atlanta. I'm changing it right now. I think realistically, if what I just predicted could happen, Kentucky's 11-1. Which, I mean, if anybody's a real sports person, there's a chance of that. Maybe it's not perfect.
I mean, I'm looking at it. There'd have to be some things go on to keep that.
There's going to have to be some things that go right for Kentucky. They're going to have to not have a hiccup. They're going to have to play good ball all year long. And you're going to have to beat Tennessee on the road, which I think, honestly, it's a toss-up between Florida and Tennessee as the second toughest game on the schedule.
You've got a bye week between Mississippi State and Tennessee, don't you?
That's why I give Kentucky the edge, is there's a bye week there. I think that gives Kentucky an edge in that game. Well, I want to also see who Tennessee plays the week before.
Yeah,
if you're playing Georgia the week before or Alabama, then definitely advantage Kentucky. But what can in this scenario, in this world, and I understand, guys, I'm an optimist, okay? I get it. Georgia gets their ass kicked by Alabama. Say Georgia loses another game throughout the season. They stumble. Somebody upsets Georgia. Okay? They beat Kentucky. They go to Atlanta, and they get their asses kicked by Alabama. Do you think there's a real chance 11-1 Kentucky football team could make the playoff?
You know, I don't.
I think it's possible.
If it were up to me, 11-1 Kentucky goes to the playoff if all that happens. The trouble is we're still just at a 4-team playoff, right? They've announced they're going to expand that, but it's not happening yet, right?
Not yet.
The trouble with that is there's so much hate to have that playoff full of SEC teams, and it's done based on votes, that it won't happen.
Oh, they put Georgia and Alabama in it last year.
Well, yeah, but you're not going to put 3 in.
No.
You're not going to put 3 in.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Georgia would have to have lost their second game of the year.
Yeah, they would. They would have to be out.
That's what I'm saying. Georgia say, okay, so guys, apology. We're having to Frankenstein a video together because, everything's dying. Yeah. Everything's just not working. But anyways, back to what we were talking about. Kentucky potentially making the playoff. I think it's realistic. I think probably the more realistic is a 9-3, 10-2 season for Kentucky. But optimism, I'm going to pick 11-1 with a shot at the playoff. That's just where I'm at with it. So now we're going to jump over to the volunteer schedule. If this will load. See, Tennessee is just, it's one of those things, man. It's like, if people figure that offense out, I don't know. Well, you got the analysis of Tennessee, so go for it.
All right, so week 1 is going to be Ball State. This is going to be a running joke for everybody because Jeremy Pruitt managed to lose to Georgia State and BYU that season. I can't bring myself to believe that anyone lets Josh Heupel forget about that. I don't see it. I think he comes out absolutely tearing Ball State up. I mean, don't start with the brakes on. Don't put the brakes on at any point in that game. It would surprise me if Taven Jackson played in that game at all. That's our third-string quarterback. I think he absolutely goes hammer down in that.
I think you have to.
I think you need.
You need to. I think he knows he needs to make a statement because he knows people are thinking, and people are like, well, it's a one-dimensional team.
Yeah.
And I think this is his chance to prove, we're not.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, a lot of people believe that the Tennessee offense is like an air raid. But if you go back and look at the stats last season, we actually ran the ball more than we threw it. The throws were exciting, and a lot of it was for touchdowns. But we actually ran the ball more than we threw the ball.
Who's your running back?
So right now we've got Jabari Small, who's been there a few years. We've got Jalen Wright, who was a true freshman last year. He's the one that scored the winning touchdown against Purdue that they did.
Yeah.
Behind him, we had Laneith Whitehead, but we got news today or yesterday that he has suffered an upper body injury. He's out for the season.
Well, you hate to hear that.
We've got a few more in there. We've got Justin Williams-Thomas, who's I think he's a 4-star true freshman coming in. We got a Dylan Sampson. I'm not sure how many stars. Stars don't matter, but he's a true freshman coming in. And then I heard that today we had a young man who used to play running back at Clemson, Lynn J. Dixon.
I've heard that name.
Yeah, he had a breakout sophomore season at Clemson when they made their national championship run. And then as Clemson's got a few more horses in that stable, he sort of saw less carries. He transferred to West Virginia this past offseason, has not played a single game for them, has not dressed a single game for them, and now he's back in the transfer portal. He was on campus today.
Oh, that's exciting.
He's a guy that Tennessee would like to have, I'm sure, whether that's a good fit or not, because Tennessee's had plenty of running backs on campus and talks with running backs from various schools from the transfer portal over the past week or two, and have elected to pass on some, or they've elected to pass on Tennessee. However that goes, we may never know, but they're looking for somebody, and
it's probably a specific mold for the offensive scheme. But
yeah, I mean, he's somebody proven success. You get him inside this offense, I can't imagine that either party would feel bad about that. So we got some work to do there. Week 2, September 10th, is Pittsburgh. This ought to be a revenge game. It's part of the Johnny Major Classic. Last year, we dropped that one to Pittsburgh, and I know that people are probably sick of hearing this, but I'm going to say it again. Hendon Hooker was not starting QB in that game, and we found out later, just a couple weeks later, that he needed to be. He's a difference maker. He truly is the real deal at quarterback, and that whole offense flows just incredibly smooth through him. And I honestly believe that if Hendon Hooker would have started the Pittsburgh game, I don't think that would have been the outcome. I think Tennessee would have won that game. Pittsburgh lost a lot. They lost Kenny Pickett. They lost Jordan Addison to the transfer portal. They are pretty high on their defensive line, but they also lost their offensive coordinator. And Pat Narduzzi, I'm looking at the article right there of him. He went a little crazy a couple of weeks ago and was talking about Mark Whipple, his former offensive coordinator, saying that he wanted to pass the ball instead of run the ball when they were having success. And I think he was referring to the Wake Forest game specifically. And when you go back and look at the stats, they were only getting 2 yards per carry when they started just slinging the ball around. And that's a game they won like 45-20 something along those lines. They absolutely kicked butt. Pat Narduzzi is crazy. He had one season of success. I don't expect Pittsburgh to repeat that this year, even though people are high on them. I think Tennessee wins that one. It's at Heinz Field, which makes it a little tricky. But I think that if you're Josh Heupel and you really want to make a statement about the direction you're headed, you take down those first 2 games right then and there, and you eliminate some of the anxiety that we have about those first 2 games that we should be winning every season. After that, you've got Akron coming to Knoxville. There is no reason that Akron should score like more than 1 touchdown, and I think that's me being generous.
I think what they'll do is surprise you and score first. Like you gotta get that happens a lot.
Maybe, but you know what, Josh Heupel. The thing I like about Josh Heupel, and this isn't something I would be pleased with any other time, but the fact that he is on a whole nother level compared to anything else he's ever done before. He comes from Central Florida. It's not like the Jeremy Pruitt where it's like, well, we're SEC and we should win this game, and so I'm not going to put all my stuff out there. Josh Heupel plays every game to win that game.
Yeah,
he doesn't leave anything in the secret books. He lays it all out there, and it's exciting football to watch. That's why I'm extremely high on Tennessee this year. Do I think we're going to an SEC championship? No, I don't. Do I think we have a pretty good chance of being number 2? Yes, but I also know that Kentucky's really good too. And if we end up number 3 behind Kentucky, I'm not going to be mad about that. I'm going to go, well, that's ridiculous. Kentucky's been building a program for a decade.
Yeah.
We've been destroying a program for a decade. After Akron, we have Florida coming to Knoxville.
This is it's the make or break game of the season.
I hate Florida. I hate Florida. There has never been a better time to beat Florida. The reports coming out of Florida right now, nobody down there is happy. Billy Napier is in la land. Didn't he tell everybody that Dan Mullen had recruited that he was going to have to reevaluate and recruit? Start up fresh. You don't get to do that in the SEC. You better just get what you can get because you may not end up with a full class. I don't see Florida having a good year, even with that supposed stud Anthony Richardson they got at QB. He hasn't done anything.
I've seen him get benched a lot.
He was hurt, I think.
Okay.
After doing backflips or something. Or no, he was hurt and then did a backflip, so he wasn't really hurt. But yes, Emory Jones still started over him with Dan Mullen. It may be another case like we had with Harrison Bailey, where everybody wants the backup QB, but there's something weird behind the scenes that nobody knows, and he's not actually better. It's it's all about the stars. So if not this year, then when is my view on the Florida game. You need to take care of business while they're here. You need to get that monkey off your back. And yeah, it takes more than 1 year, but you need to go ahead and put it in Billy Napier's mind that he's not going to march up against the Big Orange and take them down like coaches in the past. It's not going to happen. I'm sick of it.
That's a hell of a motivational speech.
Sick.
You know what? Yeah, you need to go in that freaking locker room.
No, I will gladly. I've never toured the facility. I will gladly come in there, Josh Heupel, if you ever decide to watch this. I don't know why you would.
I don't know.
If you do, I will gladly come in there and I will fire up some kind of speech for you guys. I'm so sick of Florida. So sick of it. And they get so much credit for nothing. This needs to be the beginning of you getting that off of you. Then you got at LSU. This is the game
That's the question mark of the SEC right now.
This is a game.
LSU.
I'm super excited about it. I'm also extremely nervous about it because LSU, roster-wise, they say they've got the top 3 roster talent in the SEC or in the nation. I guess not the nation, in the SEC. That sounds more correct. But they're under Brian Kelly, who this will be his first year at LSU. What can he do coming from Notre Dame? I don't know. He's a proven coach there.
Did you hear his fake Cajun accent in media days?
No.
Oh, dude, it was bad.
He needs to just settle down.
He was trying to do this Cajun accent, and I don't know if he was trying to make fun of Coach O or whatever, but it was bad.
Yeah,
it was bad.
But he's always kind of been like that. And Notre Dame tolerated it for a long time. They did a lot of favors. Yeah. Wasn't it? Is he the one that that kid was recording on a scaffold or something and it fell and he died? Was he the coach at Notre Dame when all that went down?
I don't know about that.
They supported him through a lot of stuff, and why he left there, I don't know. But I don't know what to expect with him being at LSU because Notre Dame does not play the same kind of team week after week after week after week, like he will in the SEC. And maybe that's a schedule we can go look at in a little while, off camera. I don't know, but that's a game that I'm not sure about. It's at Death Valley, which makes me lean towards a loss there for Tennessee. But without knowing what Brian Kelly's all about at LSU, I really don't know that I can make a prediction on that.
So they play at Auburn the week before Tennessee.
Auburn is, Lord.
Yeah, they're a dumpster fire, man. Auburn is a dumpster fire right now.
But, Auburn's that team that just sometimes they show up and they're just like unbelievable, and then they're ready to burn couches in the streets the next week because they lose to somebody crazy. So after LSU, we of course have Alabama. That's going to be a loss. I'd like to see it take that next step. Last season it was a competitive game for 3 quarters, and then Tennessee's defense runs out of gas because they're out there so much. We've added some depth. We've added some talent. I'd like to see that take the next step towards being a competitive game for 4 quarters. I'd like the hope going into the last few minutes, like, man, maybe Tennessee can do this. I don't expect it to happen this year. I don't expect it to happen the whole time Nick Saban's, here. But I'd like to see
Alabama's Alabama, man.
Yeah. After Alabama, you have a nice little makeup game against UT Martin. That should be an absolute breeze. This is another thing I like about Josh Heupel that I couldn't stand about Jeremy Pruitt. My birthday, a few years ago, I went camping, and I was listening to the Tennessee versus UTC or ETSU, one of those teams that like Tennessee should have blown out of the water. I'm laying in my hammock, and I'm enjoying the lake, and I'm listening to the game, and I was so bored out of my mind because Tennessee could not freaking score on whatever that lesser team was. And I know it was an in-state, and I know it was a lesser team, but I don't remember much of it. It was either UTC or ETSU or MTSU, one of those 3.
Yeah.
A team that we shouldn't have been even close with. Josh Heupel doesn't play that game. He's going to absolutely wear UT Martin down.
He's going to have 40 points in the first half.
And
that's the kind of coach he is.
Tickets as low as $9 on that one. That's a game I'd go to because Tennessee, I expect to put up big numbers.
Yeah.
Then you got Kentucky, and
Woo!
We were talking earlier about Kentucky having the bye week. Tennessee's got a nice little get ahead early, get your starters out, get them some rest game. You're shaping that Tennessee-Kentucky game up to be a good one.
It's going to be a good one, man. We're going to that game.
Yeah, I would love to.
We're going to that game.
I'm going to pick Tennessee to win this game, and here's why. Tennessee is not the downtrodden rain cloud standing over them all the time at the moment. I can't say any more, but at the moment they are not. And even at the worst times, Tennessee has found a way to get up and play this Kentucky game.
Somehow.
Yeah, somehow. And I'm telling, we talked earlier, I was not really there for the glory days.
Yeah. All
I know is that every year, especially since I met you, and we've been friends for a decade now.
Yeah, it's been a decade now.
I always get worried about this game, and then by the end of the night, I realize I had nothing to worry about because as good as Kentucky is, 10-2, 9-3, whatever they are, Tennessee finds a way to win by 2 touchdowns. Now, last season, I was nervous.
That was a good game,
and it went down to the wire, and I was happy to
get the win.
I think Tennessee wins this game. I think Tennessee...
It's a real chance they do, man.
I think Tennessee...
I hope not.
...has added enough in enough spots to win this game, even though Kentucky is more stable and really knows who they are. Tennessee still is figuring that out in some areas. But I think that Tennessee beats Kentucky again.
The difference in this game is going to be in Kentucky's secondary. Is can they shut down? Can they not get burnt quick early?
Yeah.
And I mean, even with that happening last year, it still wound up being down to the wire last series game. But dude, it's one of them. Like I said, I'm picking Kentucky because I have to.
Yeah.
But that game, I think that's the second hardest game on Kentucky's schedule. I think Tennessee's better than Florida. I think they're the second best team Kentucky plays.
Yeah. So let's see. I'm at 1, 2, 3. I'm at 4-0 going to LSU. I'm going to call LSU a win. So we're going to go 5-0 to get us to Alabama. So that'd be 5-1. We'll be 6-1 after UT Martin. So we're going to be 6-1 headed to the Kentucky game. Will put us at 7-1 after beating Kentucky. Then we go at Georgia. Georgia's an unknown team, kind of. They lost 9 players to the NFL draft on defense, and that defense really carried that team for the most part.
Such a good defense.
I mean, Stetson Bennett made some unbelievable plays, but defense does win championships. You've got to have a good offense, but you've got to have an outstanding defense if you want to win.
That was a historic defense.
It was crazy. I don't expect Tennessee to win that game, so that brings us to 7-2. Then we've got Missouri in Knoxville. That should be a cakewalk. Don't overlook them, but it should be a cakewalk. You're at 8-2 now. Then you've got out South Carolina. Look, I don't hate South Carolina. I don't really care about South Carolina. You haven't shown me anything yet that would make me concerned about what you're doing in Columbia. I haven't seen anything. We absolutely beat the crap out of South Carolina. It was never even close, like from the get-go. Like in my head, I remembered it being close. And then I watched it the other day.
Y'all beat the crap out of them.
It was never freaking close. And while South Carolina, I'm going to say this, their team is going to be better this year despite whatever their record says, because they've got a tough schedule.
They do. They really do have a tough schedule.
Their team's going to be better just adding the names on the roster that they did. I don't think that they are going to be good enough to beat Tennessee, or they think they're beating Kentucky, and I don't see that either.
I mean, they lost 8 out of 9 games against Kentucky.
Yeah,
and I just don't see it. I don't see it.
I don't either, and I don't.
Who knows? You never know, man. In SEC, weird, crazy stuff happens.
It does. People come out of nowhere. Tennessee was that team last year, come out of nowhere.
Yeah,
they were predicting 3 or 4 wins. We ended up with 7. Is that incredible? No. For us, it's a
step in the right direction.
It's a nice spark. We were projected to do this, and we well overachieved that, as opposed to starting the season in the top 10, and then before you know it, you've lost 8 games, and the coach is fired, and now there's allegations of this and that. It's nice. South Carolina went 7-6 last year. They did a good job considering what they didn't have, but they also have lost some things. They've found some weapons. They got the tight end from Oklahoma. They got Spencer Rattler from Oklahoma. That offensive line, though, I mean, as a Tennessee fan, I know what it's like to have a decent quarterback and no offensive line, and it still is not a recipe for success. So after South Carolina, you've got Vanderbilt. Clark Lee has opened his mouth and said some of the stupidest stuff. Did you hear about that?
No.
SEC Media Days, Clark Lee says that not now but soon, Vanderbilt will be the best program in college football.
Now, if he can do that, that's it. No.
No, it's not going to happen.
Like, I appreciate his confidence and his, No.
Here's the thing. You want to promote positive vibes in your program that's kind of in shambles anyway. Not now, but soon, Vanderbilt will be competing towards being the top in the SEC or the top in the East.
Yeah.
Competing to get to that. That's where you start that. Vanderbilt is not a school, even at their very freaking best. Vanderbilt was not competing for anything. They were beating Tennessee. They asked for Alabama that year, and Alabama came in and just showed them the what for.
They kicked that ass, man.
I mean, they absolutely killed them.
They reality checked them because, I mean, what did they have? A couple 8-win seasons?
Seven?
Seven regular. I think they won a bowl game and got 8 wins one year.
Yeah, and you know what? It sounds hypocritical because here I am excited about Tennessee because of a 7-win season, but Vanderbilt is not Tennessee. Vanderbilt is a program. They are in the SEC because of financial reasons.
They've always been the SEC. They were like one of the original founding members.
But they are not in the SEC because they're amazing at football. They're great at baseball. I think they've got some like really good swimming teams and some other things like that.
And every once in a while they're okay at basketball.
Yeah, but Vanderbilt is not a great football school, and they don't invest a lot into their football stuff.
They're an academic school.
They are, and I think that's fine. I don't know. Maybe Clark Lee just knows that, like, look, we're not going to get it done, so I might as well just say whatever it is I feel.
But here you are talking about Vanderbilt.
Yeah, you're talking about Vanderbilt.
You're talking about everybody's talking about Vanderbilt because of that. So I mean, in a way, it's stupid. Like, duh, you're not going to get there, but. He did create a little buzz, and I guess in his mind that was his way of getting people to talk about him at least.
Yeah.
I guess, he's trying to be more infamous than famous. I don't know.
Well, if all it took to win games was buzz, Tennessee had been there a long time ago.
Tennessee's really good at hyping themselves up.
They
and
are.
Apparently South Carolina is too.
Man, South Carolina's on one.
I
More
think
power to you. Support your team. I think that's awesome. I don't know enough about South Carolina to go one way or the other. I'm just going based on what I've seen in the past and what I kind of know about the game and what South Carolina's roster holds. You cannot find success if you cannot find a good offensive line to protect that quarterback and give him time. And Spencer Rattler has shown that if you pressure him, he will throw it to the other team a lot.
Well, and the thing is, South Carolina's not been relevant since Steve Spurrier was their coach.
No.
And I'm sorry, and that's the only reason they were relevant is because they had an elite coach like Steve Spurrier. And, South Carolina's just never been that good of a program. Like, they've been okay. Like, they've been a team, they've been the middle of the pack. They're not the doormat like Vanderbilt and what used to be Kentucky. Missouri is now. But they've always been a middle of the pack kind of team. They had a brief amount of time when they were successful, and I think they went to an SEC championship once under Spurrier. They beat Alabama once.
Spurrier was kind of on his way out as I was sort of on my way into really keeping up with it.
Yeah. See, Spurrier. He went to the NFL, left Florida, which, was probably his big career mistake. But he come back, had a decent run at South Carolina.
I don't know, man. There's something about that Florida job. People who leave it, that you just know that there's a good reason for it.
Yeah.
Urban Meyer, the way he left it.
Yeah, but Urban Meyer kind of creates a dumpster fire everywhere he goes. I mean, look what he did at Ohio State. Look what he did. Look what he did at Jacksonville, man.
Jacksonville.
Woo! But anyways, guys, that's our predictions. So what'd you finally pick?
God, I don't
10-2. So you're calling for a 10-2 season? Let's see. Or 11-1. You said lost to Georgia and Alabama. So you're calling for a 10-2 season? That's very realistic.
I mean, I think so. If you take care of business against these unknowns, I don't see any reason that it shouldn't be.
And you win your 50-50s, like at Kentucky and Florida. That's really your two games that's kind of a toss-up. The rest of them you should win.
Well, I think LSU is a toss-up. I don't count Florida as a toss-up because they, like the stuff coming out of there right now, kids who would much rather transfer out of the program and know that they will have to sit a year because they've missed the deadline than have to play for Billy Napier.
That's crazy.
The kind of stuff that's coming out right now about Florida leads me to believe that Billy Napier may be a one-and-done.
He might be. Let's hope so. Let's hope Florida just falls to the ashes.
I mean, if they fall,
because that gets more room for us at top.
Keep him there for a while.
Wouldn't it be great to live in a world where Georgia falls down and it's Tennessee, Kentucky playing for the SEC East every year? I've said that since I've known you.
I would love that.
I would too.
That's kind of the crappy part about playing in the SEC. Like, there's pride in knowing that you're playing the best of the best. Now, does that mean there's not great teams in the other conferences? No, not at all. That's not
Just
what
not
we're
as good
trying
as
to
the
say.
SEC.
From head to toe,
Yeah.
the competition is not quite as consistent in some of those other conferences.
Exactly.
So that's kind of the crappy part about playing in the SEC is like if you go 11-1, you may still not get to play for an SEC championship, and you may still not get into the college football playoff. But if you were a part of the Big Ten or anywhere else, you'd be there. You'd have punched your ticket weeks ago.
Could you imagine, like, if you take the last decade, Tennessee, Kentucky, move them to the ACC or the Big Ten?
Oh, I know.
It would be. Big Ten's tougher. Big Ten is probably the closest to an SEC kind of conference. But, like, the ACC, come on. I know every once in a while you get a Clemson. Yeah, Pac-12. Like, I know every once in a while one of them teams wins a national title or whatever, but, like, come on. It's not like playing the SEC.
No, it's not.
And those teams would never be as successful in the SEC.
Find us an ACC schedule real quick. I want to see what that looks like.
Let's go back to Kentucky because I know they play Louisville, which is an ACC team. And let's just look at Louisville's schedule. So, why is it showing last year's Louisville schedule? What the... Let's click here. Here we go. Now we're on to something, people. Okay, so at Syracuse is their opener. At Central Florida. Florida State. Florida State's been down. I don't know. Are they...
They've got a brand new coach. Or no, they've got Mike Norvell from Memphis. He's on the hot seat. He may be getting ready on his way out. He may be getting ready to be done.
Dude, this is... I mean, they play Clemson, and I know Clemson had a pretty bad year last year, but they're probably going to be back.
But it really wasn't that bad.
It wasn't.
It was bad for them. It wasn't really that bad.
They're probably going to reload and be a competitor again. As long as they got Dabo there, they're always going to be kind of there. So that would probably be a loss or whatever for Kentucky and Tennessee. But the rest of the schedule?
It's cake.
It's
Syracuse,
a cakewalk.
Central Florida, which Gus Malzahn, he is like the human rendition of what Auburn football has been anyway.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of all over the place. So you got Syracuse, UCF, Florida State. Mike Norvell's on his way out. This is probably his last season there. South Florida, Boston College. Boston College is well known because sometimes they show up and beat a number one, and then sometimes they show up and lose to number 121.
Yeah, for real.
Then you got Virginia. That's nothing. Pittsburgh is up and down, but typically really bad. Wake Forest is a decent program. James Madison is nothing. Clemson's very good. NC State's up and down. Then you got Kentucky. I mean...
And Kentucky beats Louisville 54-12 every year.
Yes.
And that is a reason for that. Tennessee or Kentucky has this schedule. You're looking, if they goof up one game.
2 losses at the most.
At the most. The 10-2 season, easy.
Yes.
They could easily go undefeated if they shock Clemson.
So I keep getting distracted by this guy with the razor.
I know, right?
It's so satisfying to watch that straight line with the razor down there.
I need to get one of those.
I know. I've been wanting one.
But anyways, guys, I think that's going to wrap it up. This has been a hodgepodge. The audio has changed, everything, and I do apologize. This has been a dumpster fire of an episode. So we will be back next week. I will have us a live stream. It's going to be a nice, fun chill. We're going to chat. We're going to go live. And we're going to talk some more football because football season is coming near. And guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here. And we'll see y'all next week.
Sounds good.
Peace.